Meu coração faz tica-tica-bum, com emoção, tica-tica-bum. O meu ganzá faz tica-tica-bum, uma canção, tica-tica-bum. É brasileiro, tica-tica-bum, com um pandeiro fazendo tica-tica-bum. E vem a saudade da Bahia, onde a gente tem canjere também numa batucada. Make sense the tic-tic-boom, tic, but he meant tic-tic-boom, tic. É brasileiro, tic-tic-boom, tic, com um pandeiro fazendo tic-tic-boom, tic. Meu coração faz tic-tic-boom, tic, com emoção faz tic-tic-boom, tic. E vem a saudade onde a gente tem canjere também numa batucada. É brasileiro, tic-tic-bum, bum, bum, tic-tic-tic, com um pandeiro fazendo tic-tic-bum, tic. E o meu ganzá faz tica-tica-bum, pra eu cantar o tica-tica-bum, com a canção do tica-tica-bum, tic-tic.
You need to listen to that song. Yes, you sitting on your couch right there. You need to listen to that song with headphones on. That's Bebel Gilberto. I've seen her in concert. Funny story. The concert I saw her at, I thought it was great, but the next day I got an email from the venue and they gave everyone free tickets to another show because they said that she wasn't, her performance wasn't up to that venue's standards, but she did great. I thought she did great, but she didn't play that song as far as I remember. It's not one of her well-known songs. It's kind of a goofy song, but with headphones on, the bass on that was ridiculous, and it's got the stereo thing going on. I didn't realize it until I just started wearing these. So listen to it with headphones. It's really kind of takes that song to another level. Hello. My name is John Kulas. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology, 12-year user of OR for normal, boring statistical applications. But for the majority of those 12 years, I've also been executing full projects from within the same environment that I specify my R analyses and script. And so I think that this is a powerful way to structure your work. I also think it's consistent with this principle of reproducible research. And so every week I just hang out here and make myself available if there's other people who might be interested in this. If I think everyone that's doing analytical stuff should be structuring their work this way. But if you're just interested in it, maybe this will give you some ideas of capabilities. If you're already doing it, maybe this is helping to promote that and let you know that there's other people out here who also feel strongly about this. So I'm here every week, every Tuesday at about 7, and I just hang out, and I'm available if there's any questions or any sort of interaction that people want, knowing that it's an overused term, but maybe a community out there, a small community. It's a growing community. Boy, I said it's an overused term, and I just used it 3 times. Bad kulas. So I'm here every week at Tuesday at 7 o'clock for roughly an hour. I've been pretty bad about that the last few weeks. We've been going at least 20 minutes over. But it shouldn't matter to you. You can pop in and pop out whenever you want. That's fine. That's why we're here with YouTube, so you can do that at your convenience. In the absence of questions, what we've been doing is we've been taking a look at targeted features or specialized features, capabilities of this way of structuring your work. So specific targeted things that you can do, and just kind of dicing it up and making it digestible in terms of the little elements. So it's probably a little overwhelming. If someone like me, you're not used to this, just says use OR to write a paper. Well, you're like, that seems kind of ambitious. Or use OR, use these processes to make a slide deck for your classmates. I still think this is the best way to use this. Even at the undergraduate level, this is so accessible. You can do it. You can really blow your peers away with some of the interactive capabilities of structuring your slides this way. But anyway, those broader projects, yes, of course, that's what you can do, but it may be a little too much to bite off in terms of the whole project. So we look at little targeted capabilities. So tonight we're going to take a look at some of the new features that are facilitated via Quarto, the software that we've been relying on to really help us generate these products. But some of the new features specific to Typst, the document format, that Quarto has now decided to further support. And so there's a hyperlink here. If you want to get ahead of the game a little bit, just follow this hyperlink and it'll show you what we're doing. The link to the slides are in the comments. They're also, if you get to this late, I know most people don't watch it live, they watch it after the fact. If you get to the comments late and they're not yet populated, look at the description in the video. There's a link there. I did also, we're streaming on X again. We'll be doing that for, I think, a little while yet. We'll see if anyone likes that or they prefer that. I also put a link in the reply to a post that I put on X in terms of how to access the slides. What I didn't do on X, but what you have access to on YouTube is there's also a link to a tutorial, a walkthrough that kind of shows some of the capabilities, and the only thing you need other than R and probably RStudio or your IDE of choice. If you're using Positron, that works as well. If you're using VS Code, that works as well. If you're using Jupyter Lab, that works as well. Those are the ones that we've kind of played with. The only difference being, if you're in a different IDE, you're going to need to be comfortable with interacting with the terminal. So writing out commands like, hey, I want you to take what I've scripted here and give me a product that makes sense to humans. You're going to have to do that a little differently in those different IDEs. So as long as you have RStudio, R, and then Quarto, the software itself, you can go ahead and follow that walkthrough and build yourself a nice little report and see what some of these capabilities are. Okay, so that I think is kind of it in terms of why we're here each weekly session. Because we cover these topics when we're looking at focused features, we cover them in an exploratory manner. I don't really have any sort of roadmap, generally speaking. Typically, I don't have any real kind of list that I'm ticking off in terms of what we're going to hit, what we're going to show. Because of that, each week we do recap what happened the previous week, and we try to present it in a manner that's a little more, that's a little easier to digest in terms of learning some of this stuff. So let's get into what happened last week.
Well, things are reaching the boiling point down at dear old Abominable Manor. For last time, you may recall, Boris Badenov made a deadly arrangement with the crankcase nephews.
It's time for a change of Earl.
Resourceful as ever, Boris and Natasha disguised themselves as English policemen.
You may be a Bobby, but she certainly isn't.
No? Show us your bobby pin, Natasha.
See, darling, 20 years on force.
Secure in the belief that they were under police protection, Rocky and Bullwinkle allowed themselves to be placed in a closet.
Well, at least we'll be safe in here.
Nothing could have been further from the truth, for Boris had given them a radio for company, a radio booby-trapped with TNT.
That's bobby trap.
Well, whatever it was, that radio would heat up and then...
Say, I bet we're just in time to catch the English sweepstakes.
And the horses are coming into the home stretch with mother-in-law in the lead.
There's a running gag the last few of those that we've cut up of the narrator being corrected in terms of his pronunciation of something. So booby trap, bobby trap. There was what was the week? 2 weeks the last week as well as the week preceding that had corrections as well. I don't remember exactly what they were. But Bullwinkle was correcting the narrator the last couple of weeks. This week it was Boris. Bad old Boris. So last week was the second week that we took a look at creating conference posters all within your scripting environment. And so 2 weeks ago, we looked at primarily one strategy to create conference posters using a package from the old R markdown ecosystem of packages called PosterDown. Now, PosterDown on the back end also uses a package called PageDown that transitions from the PosterDown specified thing to a printable PDF that you can share with someone that's going to help you print this thing, because these conference posters are big. They typically are 2 feet by 3 feet or 3 feet by 4 feet. Even they're large. So you're going to need, you can't just hit print on your local computer. Most of us can't. We don't have the hardware for this. So you're going to have to engage with somebody or some company that has the capability of printing off a large formatted poster, and they always want that in a PDF format. So in addition to PageDown, in addition to PosterDown, the package, you're going to want PageDown, the package, and using those two packages, it's pretty straightforward to get really neat, really nice looking posters. Last week, what we did was we looked at a modern alternative to those PosterDown and PageDown strategy posters. And so that is a template that comes built into, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it comes built in, but a template that is supported by the authors of Quarto. And so this is actually, it's actually framed as a template, but it operates the same way as an extension. So we've been using extensions pretty copiously, I guess, across these 126 sessions that we've had. And by the way, so 126 sounds like a lot, but when we started, so I had more collaborators when this started. But when we started, we didn't know Quarto. This was brand new to us. So we didn't know what an extension was. We didn't know what Quarto was. And we're still kind of learning that. But we've been using, since that first week, building up now to week 126, we've gotten used to using extensions. And extensions are capabilities that do not come bundled into the Quarto distribution. So Quarto is an independent piece of software. You just load it on your machine. Now Quarto is it is developed and supported by Posit, the same company that brings us RStudio. So my understanding is that Quarto may also come bundled into RStudio distributions. I haven't updated RStudio for a while, so I can't verify that. And I've been pretty good, I think, about updating Quarto. Now, historically, I'm not alone in this. I know a lot of you are the same. We're bad, notoriously bad at updating things like R, the software that powers our analyses, as well as RStudio, the IDE that we choose to interact with or within. Quarto, I've been better at that. So Quarto, I've noticed a lot more dependencies and necessities. That is, I'll try to do something and it'll say no. And the reason it says no is because I don't have the most recent version of Quarto. And so that actually happened last week when we tried to access this template that operates the same way as an extension. So the Typst template for conference posters that is provided by Posit, the company that gives us RStudio, it also gives us Quarto. It worked great and it was fine. It was very easy. It was something that was actually pretty fun to work with, I would say. Now, one of the struggles that we've had historically with conference posters fully executed within RStudio is the kind of forecasting and getting the content to fit exactly the space that you want. And so what I have here on the right, this is a full poster. You can go ahead, as long as you have the extension downloaded, so use my slides, and then sorry, that hyperlink is just to a general, like what an extension is. The Typist template hyperlink is the one that will take you to the extension itself, and this is what you can expect a poster to look like just out of the box. This right here, Quarto use, is the command that you initiate in your terminal, in your computer terminal, and that will give you all that information, all the capabilities that you need within a project directory, hopefully. It'll give you all the capabilities you need to reproduce a poster, to create a poster using Quarto and Typist. And so because you're trying to kind of fit content within an idealized dimensionality of the poster, there's some things that you're going to want to play with. And one of the things you want to play with, what we did last week was we did that through using a Typist command chunk. And so this on lines 17 through 19 here, those of you that are familiar with this process, either are markdown or Quarto, you'll recognize this as a code chunk, also sometimes called a block, except in the curly brackets here after the opening three, what are those things called? 3 tick marks, I guess. After the opening 3 tick fence, in the curly brackets, instead of R, which is what most of you are used to seeing and using, and we actually see that down here as well. So I have a bit of R code here. This is a more typical chunk on starting on line 26. That's a ggplot chunk. But here we actually have a set of commands that are in a different language, and it's in the Typist language. And the reason this is here is because it's a very neat, accessible, and just there for you, convenient way to mess around with the font size of the content of your poster. And if you play with this on line 18, if you play with the font size moving from 18 to 16, 16 to 20, 20 to 30, just play around with it. As well as the number of columns that you want to be presented. Now 3 is the default, so you don't actually need this line 14 specification, because by default the Typist template is going to produce a poster with 3 columns. That's kind of the historical standard on these sorts of posters, but you can expand that, you can constrict that if you want. And then the third thing that you want to play with is the poster size here, and this is in inches. 36 by 24 is 3 feet by 2 feet. As long as I've been alive, I've been told that this standard unit of measurement that's used here primarily in America is going away. It's all going to be metric, but like it still exists. It's too embedded within some industries, construction, for example, or I don't think it'll ever fully go away. But good old USA, USA, USA. Here we go. We have a 36 by 24 specification on line 5. And so if you play with the poster size in terms of the dimensions, so that's width by height. If you play with the number of columns in terms of where you want your content to be allocated, and then you also play with the font size of the content in the body of your poster, that is, in my experience, that's sufficient to get everything kind of positioned the way that you want. There's other tweaks that you can have, but those 3 things in particular are probably going to be sufficient for most people. As I said, if you want to get a sense of this, just go ahead and engage with this slide itself. There's a clipboard here. You can copy that and you can paste that right into a QMD file, a Quarto type document within your local session, and you can reproduce it as long as you have this template that's also loaded in an underscore extensions folder. If you follow this command, it'll do that for you. It'll create an underscore extensions folder and it'll put in there all the capabilities that you actually need. Now, I also did put together kind of a quick overview of what we saw, comparison with the historical way of creating conference posters with the new way. And I'm laughing a little bit because the historical way to create conference posters is to not do any of this stuff, right? You do it in PowerPoint or something silly like that. Don't do any. If you're watching this, don't be doing that. If you're watching this, the historical way to create a conference poster is actually using poster down. The contemporary way is using this Typst template. So there's hyperlinks to both of those capabilities there if you want to check those out. And this is probably just duplicated from the previous slide. Yep, it just takes you to the same space. But in terms of comparison, if I were to kind of compare and contrast and say advantages and disadvantages, they both have the dimensions of the poster specified within the YAML, the front matter of your script, which is good. You can very easily engage with tweaks in terms of the formatting. How big are the margins? How large is the title? What space do I have above and below? What are the colors? What are the fonts? Things like that. This personalization of the appearance of these posters are really. The first time you try this, it's going to seem like it's maybe not natural, but after you've done this a little bit, and you can salvage these. So if you do it for one conference, you can take what you've specified and use that as a template for the next conference. The tweaking that you do, the actual specifications that you do, can really build on a previous one quite easily. Now, the way that we do that through the poster down methodology is engaging with CSS, the style sheeting the style language that's used with HTML file types, and the way that we do it with the Typst template is through Typist command tweaks. The font size code chunk that we just went over is an example of this. Now, there is some CSS that does work with Typist as well, but it's not exact. It's not 100%. So I think I feel somewhat comfortable saying that if you're using poster down, you're going to want to tweak what your conference poster looks like using CSS. And if you're using the Typist template, go ahead and use the Typist code chunks. So same process with poster down, I would do a CSS code chunk is how I would probably specify that. Now, one caveat with the poster down approach is you're going to first create an HTML representation of your poster, and then you're going to use page down to take that HTML representation and render it in a PDF format. Again, the people who are printing physical hard copies of these for us, they are going to want a PDF. And so that, that's not ideal, I guess. To me, it's not that big of a deal, but it definitely is an advantage in the Typist approach that there isn't this intermediary kind of step. Now, one kind of side benefit to the intermediary step is you will have an HTML representation of your conference poster if you take the poster down approach. And I have linked, if you look at previous week's slides, there's some hyperlinks to old posters that I've done or I've collaborated on, and we have links to the HTML versions of those posters just because we made them in poster down and there's an HTML version, so might as well just put it on the web and have a hyperlink to it. So there's kind of a side benefit of that, but that also means that there's, every time there's another chain, there's a potential for a breakage of the linkage that's kind of interfering. So I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I would just say maybe something to be aware of. The main advantage, I think, of the poster down approach, and I put an asterisk here, but there are three templates. There are three different, very kind of different looking in terms of aesthetics. There's three very different looking poster formats that you can have out of the box with poster down. There's an additional two that come packaged with page down. And so I'm thinking of poster down as by necessity being paired with page down. So when I say there's 5 different templates, it's 3 that come from poster down and 2 that come from page down. With the current support that I'm seeing for the Typist conference poster template, there's just the one. I don't know if that's a big thing, but most people probably don't want to get too creative with how their poster looks. I do. I've been doing this for too long. I was a professor for 20 years. I've now not been a professor for debatable, but I've not been a full-time professor for a couple of years now. But prior to being a professor, I was a graduate student for a long time, and we made a lot of posters as a graduate student as well. So having done, I don't know, 60, 70 probably conference posters, um, maybe not that many, 50 maybe. It's been a lot, but so it's appealing to me to have different to make it look different. So to me, I'm really kind of drawn to this old way where we have built in already kind of set for you different looks that you can have. Now there's absolutely no reason that you can't take the standard template and apply some typist language to it and just tweak the format of it yourself. Again, you can play with number of columns. That's a very easy tweak to do. You can probably there's all kinds of things you can do. So beyond the you shouldn't be limited by the template. But if you're just getting started with this, you be aware that probably what your end product is going to end up looking like is going to be very close to what those templates look like. And then the other, I guess, probably big thing is that the poster down package itself. And again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but my recollection is that the person who put this together, the primary worker on this, when I first stumbled across this, I believe he was a graduate student. And so this is one of those packages and capabilities that may have kind of lost some of its support as the graduate student moves on to non-graduate student-like things. I'm just speculating here. I don't know that that's the case, but certainly the package hasn't really been touched much for a number of years. I think 5 or so years. We can take a quick look here. Poster down. You can see there are some issues that have been on here. 6 years ago was the last time this has really been, information in here has been updated in terms of the main branch of the repository. It works fine, so I'm not concerned about that. I've used it a lot, and there's a lot of support that you can pull from AIs as well, because other people have done a lot of. I've seen a lot of other conference posters authored through Poster Down. So it's currently inactive, and that might be something that would drive someone to consider the Typist template instead of the old Poster Down approach. Okay, so that's conference posters. Again, if anyone's interested in this, drop a note, and I'd be happy to revisit it, and we can get more elaborate with these things. I love I love those capabilities. I love it when this process is used to produce something that's really mundane or usual or typical or just kind of, I don't know, has a long history of not a lot of creative upheaval or change. And so I love doing conference posters using this process. Okay, so today, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to take a look at the Quarto 1.9 release. And last week was the first time we mentioned it. Prior to last week was the first time that I was made aware that there was a new Quarto out. And again, the reason I was made aware is because I tried to render a poster using that Typist template. And one of the error messages I got back was, you need to update Quarto. It was a rare, very targeted, very nice error message that was very easy to overcome. So I downloaded the new Quarto, and lo and behold, it's a 1.9. And so there's a listing on here if you hit that hyperlink. And there's more in here. So there's a lot more to what is new. But in terms of what I thought we could take a look at tonight are some of the capabilities that the Quarto team kind of has singled out and said, hey, this is something that we focused on in this update, in this bundle of Quarto. And so I think what I have on this week's slides are, I have a link to theorems and to books and to article layouts. And so unless someone pops by, and I'll keep an eye on the comments, if someone pops by and wants to look at something else, we can. I guess one other thing, I don't know if anyone's ever looked at it, but at the very end of the slide deck each week, I've been putting a R session just for debugging purposes. And this week I added the Quarto version as well. And so Quarto version is something that will always be on this last slide. So starting tonight. So if you're curious about not only what we did, but also what Quarto version we're using, it's here on this slide. Okay, so we're on Quarto 1.9.37, and let's just go in order here. So we'll check out theorems first. So what a theorem is it's something that's used in math applications typically, and it's a element of manuscripts and of papers that is probably going to be specific to particular fields. Now, my field, psychology, this isn't something that uses a lot of theorems, but I think it's a neat capability. So let's take a look at how theorems are currently rendered using Quarto to produce a typist document type. So I'm going to open R. So I'm going to open R, and we don't need a project yet. Well, we're going to need a project, I think. So let's hold off on that. So let's just do a Quarto document, and we'll start with an HTML document. And I'm just going to render this. I always recommend just rendering the boilerplate template, just to make sure that everything's set up on your system and you get something. So if you don't get something, from the boilerplate template, then there's no point in doing other stuff. So here we go. Looks like it's okay. This is just an HTML file. I think what we can do is add the code that I copied. So I copied from the hyperlink from this week's slides. There's a redirect to this theorems and proofs section from the Quarto help documentation, and there's a code chunk here that I can use the clipboard and just take the whole thing, and they use fences. So this opening fence says this is a theorem. I'm going to call it line, so the prefix theorem is going to be important later if we want to call it out and cross-reference it. And then you have the title of it, that's identified after these hash marks here, or I'm sorry, octothorpes, after 2 octothorpes. And then here's the description of the title itself, and then here's the formula. The formula in the processes that we're using to create documents, the way in which mathematical formulas are identified is through either a single $sign encompassing the formula or double $signs. Double $signs is going to put it on its own line. It's going to center it on its own line in your document. Single $signs will be an inline representation of the formula itself. So let's just go ahead and render this and see what it looks like. This is copied verbatim from the Quarto documentation. And so now I have a theorem. So you can see the theorem is bolded. So the entire theorem is bolded, even though in my specification here you only see a double hashtag, a double octothorpe identifying line. So the formatting here is I'm going to take that and put it in parentheses, and I'm going to number this theorem. So this would, if we got rid of the fences, this would render quite differently. So just temporarily, I'm going to get rid of those, and we'll render this. So now you see line is coming in as a header, and the equation is coming. The equation of a straight line, called a linear equation, this is coming in as any other text. There's nothing really to differentiate it. But then my theorem itself this looks the same. So the actual y equals mx plus b, the the equation that defines a straight line looks kind of the same. So the fencing here is kind of important if you're a mathematician, I would imagine. I'm not a mathematician. But I would imagine that you want to call this out in a little different formatting. And so that's what we're seeing here with the theorem fence. Okay, so let's try this. Let's try this using a Typist document. And this isn't something that I engage with or use. I do fairly frequently actually use equations, but they're not presented as theorems in psychology. So this is pretty neat. So we're actually seeing the formatting of the information here that we've put in terms of the definition of leading to the equation itself. You can see the formatting of that is kind of specialized here. So it's in italics, and that's actually pretty neat. The hyperlink is here because we've cross-referenced, and so you see in Quarto, when you say C and then at whatever it is, the Quarto software will give a prefix that's consistent with the prefix given to the hashtag itself, to the octothorpe itself. Okay, so one of the things that Quarto, the new Quarto, has done is it's actually permitting or specifying or giving the option of some different ways in which that theorem is rendered. And so it can be rendered using a classic style. I think that's probably what we have. We can have colored boxes. We can have rounded backgrounds, and we can have a colored left background. So these can be further specified. These can be further altered and customized, but this is what's coming out of the box. So I thought maybe we could just take a look at these. So let's do that. So I'm going to copy straight from the help pages here and respecify my YAML. And so if you want to control the appearance of a document type, we've, over the course of these 126 sessions, we've learned that the YAML, the front matter of our Quarto documents, the indentation is kind of important. So we have kind of sub specifications, and the theorem appearance that I want here is, I'm going to go back and see if I get some autocomplete. There we go. So the autocomplete is giving me the options that we have. Now we should be able to put this in the fence itself as well if we just wanted it for only one theorem. But if we want to apply it to the entire document, we can do that. And this looks the same as it looked before, so that's not. So simple must be the default, I'm guessing. Fancy, what does fancy look like? Fancy is very fancy. All right, I'm going to start using theorems now. That looks cool. That looks super cool. That looks like a call out, kind of. And I love call outs. Now, if we did a second theorem, is it going to be the same color or a different color? It should be the same color, right? So let's do a second theorem. Why not? So theorem, we'll call this not a line, but a circle. So a circle. I don't know, I'm not too creative with this kind of stuff. The equation of the area within a circle is, and then it's area equals, what is pi r squared? So I think, how do I do, I'm trying to remember how we actually do pi. I think it's, there we go. So it's / and then the Greek pi times r, and then I want to superscript 2. Probably don't need this, right? Yeah, it doesn't look right. I think we can change the way in which that's rendered. I don't know what looks best. I think maybe that looks best, pi r squared. So we'll try that. So we have theorem circle. Let's do a reference to that as well. So up here we'll say C theorem for a line. If you prefer circles, check out, and then we'll cross-reference that. So we'll say at theorem circle. This cross-referencing is so cool. Like this is one of the main reasons you should use this process. Is especially, can you imagine if you're doing something like a thesis or dissertation and your advisor keeps saying, "We'll change this, put this there. I want this ahead of this. I want that after that," and having to go through your document and like re-identify figure 1 is now figure 5 is now a figure 4 is now figure. I had to do that when I was in graduate school. You don't need to do that anymore. If you structure things the way we've structured them, these will just be renumbered automatically. To show you that, let's go ahead and take theorem 1, current theorem 1, which is a line. I'm going to paste that below the circle, and now that'll become theorem 2. And so it's just the automation of that sort of formatting is just so powerful using these processes. So it's almost a reason to use it just by itself. And now these hyperlinks become a little more meaningful. If we want to actually go to them, it'll, you know, if this were on page 30 instead of the same page, it's kind of more important. All right, cool. Those are super cool. I think I like fancy. What was our other options? I don't know. I'm so impressed with fancy. I don't know if I'm going to need clouds. Clouds sounds nice. Yeah, it's no fancy. I mean, it's all right. Listen to me being critical. Thank you, Quarto people, for giving us these tools. I don't know. Maybe it's the pastel pink. We're past Easter. We need not a pastel. We need not Easter colors. I'm impressed with fancy. It's gonna be hard to overcome fancy. Although I do like the sound of rainbow. Rainbow sounds nice. I don't know. It's all right. It kind of reminds it. We've customized some callouts to look kind of similar to this. It's more elegant. This is a classy theorem. So if you are at a cocktail party and it's a black tie affair, you might want rainbow. Now, one recommendation I have is they misnamed these. So fancy should be rainbow and rainbow should be fancy. Rainbow is fancier than this, I think. I don't know. The sun might be getting to me. It's really nice here, so I may have gotten too much sun today talking about fancy and rainbows. Okay, so there's theorems. Theorems are super cool. Let's do one thing really quick here and see if this is also a subcommand that we can specify in other document types, because I don't deal with theorems. I'm kind of curious though. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. So it looks like these are probably specific to Typist document types in terms of the 4 that are listed here: simple, fancy, clouds, and rainbow. Okay, neat. Oh yeah, because it says it's using a particular package. That probably is something that has support outside of specifically what we're doing. So those are theorems and stylings of theorems. Let's take a look at books. Want to create a book? Let's create a book. So Quarto books can be rendered to PDF using Typist. When you specify format Typist. All right, let's try a book. I think we're probably gonna want to be in a project directory for this. Books are a little more complex. There's a meta YAML with books and websites, so that meta YAML actually exists outside. It tells you the architecture and the structure of the website or the book itself. What are the chapters? What goes first? What goes next? And so there's a there's a little more to it than that. So let's see if we can find a template that walks us through this. I don't remember, honestly, I don't remember the last time I tried to start a book from the ground site like this, but I'm imagining, oh, it's right here, Quarto book. Okay. So as I went through the wizard, file, new project, new directory, this is usually a screen that I just bypass, but with more complex types of products, it does make sense that we might want to follow the template of one of these. So I think let's go ahead and use Quarto book. I don't know if that's been there for a long time or not. Great American Novel. I am violating my principle of long folder names that could be mistyped at some point in the future, but we'll call it the Great American Novel, all squished together so it's hard to read. We'll create that project and we'll see what it gives us. It looked to me like, just really quickly there, that it did give us that overarching kind of, this is your YAML for the project that specifies what this thing looks like, and that is this underscore Quarto YAML here. So yeah, it's giving me, so even though it said, oh, it said Quarto book, I'm sorry. It said Quarto book, it didn't specify whether it was going to be HTML, PDF, or what. We're going to force it into a Typist format. For now, I can see that it's pre-populating 4 different chapters. So and these are all in my project directory here. So there's oh, it gave me a cover too. What's the cover? Let's give it a different cover image. We should render it, make sure it renders first, but that's no fun. So we'll look for Snagglepuss. I like Snagglepuss. So he can be our representative of the document itself. I'm going to save that as, I'll save it in my project folder if I can find it. Great American Novel, there it is. I'm just going to save it as cover. I'm going to overwrite the current cover. And let's go ahead and render the book. Now, if you are in RStudio and you have a book or a website project, a project that has this underscore Quarto file specified, then you're going to, oh, there's a cover PNG too. Oh, what? I did get too much sun today. My goodness. If you're within RStudio and you're doing a book project or a website project, you're going to see a new tab up here in my upper right hand pane. So there's a build tab now, and that build tab is one way in which you can go ahead and create the book. So I'm just going to render it in its HTML form because that's the easiest. And we'll see what that looks like. Let's see if it works. There we go. There's a Great American Novel. I don't see Snagglepuss anywhere. I don't know where he was supposed to be. We might have to go back and change that. So, okay. I mean, it looks like it's coming up fine. I don't know that this search bar has been on there previously. So I'm wondering if that's kind of something new. I'm going to look for something. So Newth is here in the introduction. I'm going to go to the summary chapter and we're going to search for Newth and see what it pulls up. There it is. Neat. Okay. That's one of the neater features about these Quarto, these websites and books, is the kind of searchability that they have built in. I don't know. I think it's pretty neat. Oh, I don't have, yeah, I mean, I should have the image here somewhere specified. I guess we can just put it into a chapter. So let's put it in the intro. Let's just put Snagglepuss on here. So I'm going to do an exclamation point square bracket, and then in normal parentheses we'll say cover.png. I would have thought that that would have been specified within the YAML, and we could go into the YAML and specify that. that would probably be one way to do it. Now, what I did there was I just rendered this chapter instead of building the entire book again. Normally you'd probably want to go in there and render the entire book. Okay, so the themes I'm not so concerned about. What we want to try is we want to see if we can get a typist document type in terms of a book. And now, so this should give us a PDF representation of this itself. Now, it's a very minimal book. There's 2 chapters in it, as well as a preface and a reference section. So there's not much there, but let's go ahead and I'm just literally gonna change line 16 here and put typist in there, and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna save that. I'm not sure. I think I believe that RStudio will either give you a warning and say, do you want to save this, or it will just automatically save it as we're rendering. Look at that. Well, that couldn't be easier. I love that formatting. Now I want to change. We don't want Nora. We don't want Nora to get credit for that because I love that. But I can't take credit either because how do you spell Hanna-Barbera? I should know this. Did you know Hanna-Barbera actually were uncredited as animators for many, I guess, Tom and Jerry cartoons before they kind of struck out on their own and made their own animation empire. I love everything Hanna-Barbera. I really do. I don't think there's anything that they've done that I don't like. Well, Wally Gator. I'm not a huge Wally Gator fan. And Peter Hippopotamus. I spoke too soon. I guess there are Hanna-Barbera things that I'm not a huge fan of. Let's get the cover pick. Let's get the cover pick on there. Cover pick, typist, book. So there's going to be a YAML command here that we want to put the picture on. I don't remember what it is. Let's see here. Well, they've already updated the book to include typist. So that's pretty neat. Sidebar, image. Here we go. Cover image. Cover image. Let's see what that actually looks like. Now they're doing. Oh, you can do it on a per format basis. We don't want to do that. We should be okay just putting it as a first level indentation here under the book specification. So let's see what that looks like. Well, let's see what that looks like in HTML format first. Because there are some real advantages to that HTML format in terms of interactivity that's supported, but also kind of some of the layout. Some of the layout is, I think, pretty neat. You just kind of put it there on the side. Okay. But that's neat. So that's our cover image. He's also going to be in our intro because we hardwired that in our intro, but now he's actually on the front page as well. Let's try the typist format and see what that looks like. I was really surprised at I'm going to build it without saving, and we'll see what we get here. Yeah, it just auto-saved it. So RStudio just auto-saves your overarching YAML specifications. He didn't come up. Okay. So we would have to work on that a little bit. So he did not come up there. Let me see if I can, or do we call it something else? Cover.png. That should be right. It's in our root directory. So we'll try it at a different specification level as well. See if that has any sort of impact. And then probably just move on because I'm guessing I'm the only one that cares about Snagglepuss on the cover. Yeah, okay, so we'd have to work on that a little bit. So there is some internal logic and specification in terms of the formatting of this. I love it. I love that blue bar right. It looks like a classic kind of minimalist book. I know. The more AI is overtaking everything, the more I appreciate just kind of some of these older looking things. Now, this is pretty classy. So one thing I would, if we had a little more time, I would like to, right when I say it's classy. Uh, hey, Bebel Gilberto, she's playing right now on my music. That's and it's the Chicka Chicka Boom song. Who would have thought? Now there's some weird formatting going on here in terms of spaces, like empty spaces in these pages. Maybe there's a default of they expect us to give them enough content to fill at least 2 pages, possibly, or there's something like it's built in. There's a blank page between the end of one chapter and the start of another. That makes sense to me. That's probably what's going on. But there are hyperlinks here that are accessible. I like the chapter headings formatting with this kind of bar that goes off the page like that. That's really neat. Okay, so Typist books. That's something that is newer, and it's something that people might be interested in, I suppose. Um, Now we should be able to build this in the standard PDF format as well. We'll see if this works. This should take quite a bit more time. The formatting, if it renders, will be different, but it'll still give us, theoretically, it'll give us a PDF. One of the reasons it might fail is it has to go through this intermediary step of specifying a text file, and that sometimes takes a little time. Sometimes we need to control the way in which that text file is being rendered and processed. Okay, so here's the PDF. It looks more 1990s-ish in terms of formatting, which I appreciate. I like, but and we're not seeing the empty pages, but that typist look was fantastic. Like, I really like that. So that's neat. I'm glad we looked at it. That's something that working on a couple of books right now, and our intent is to keep these in HTML format. We're not looking for publishers, anything like that. We just want to make these resources available to people. But man, I really like the way this looks. You know, I would be open to making these sorts of versions of our books as well as the HTML versions, just because I don't know, I love the default format of that. Super cool. Okay, neat. So that's one of the second capabilities of Typist 1.9. Is that right? 1.9 was additional kind of book capability via Typist, and it looks like the formatting we saw probably has something to do with Orange Book. It says that has something to do with the styling, and so if we wanted to further change that, amend that, we might play with that a little bit. Now, article layout is the last thing that I thought we would look at tonight, and I did do a little exploration of what they're talking about here in terms of these capabilities. Much of it is related to the margins of your typist documents, and so I don't know why. I don't know that. Fine, that we'll take a look at that, but I don't know why people would really want to do that all that much. But we can put content in the margins. You could always do this with HTML file types, and we'll just take our intro page here and we'll pretend like it's not in a book. So I'm going to give it a YAML here, and we'll just say format we'll try HTML first. So you can asides are ways that in HTML files, asides are ways that you can have content, I believe, in the margins. I believe the aside. So this is a bracketed aside. Excuse me. You can do this with fences as well. And you can also, what didn't you like here? It doesn't like my bibliography. So I am going to have to get out of this. I'm going to have to get out of this project directory. So we should be able to do this just in a file outside of the directory. So let's look and see whatever we recently used here. Example, I think, is what we called our theorem. Our theorem example. So I'm just going to go back there. So here's our theorems, and I'm going to put that aside in as well. And I'm wondering within an HTML file where that aside is going to be rendered with the expectation it's probably going to be in the margins. Now, previously, the Typst document type either did not support asides or it just didn't put stuff in. It just didn't put stuff in the margins like this. What are we doing here with them? We're losing. Oh. I copied too much. So we said that there was an image. When there wasn't an image, we can put an image back in there because we like images, of course. Let's do a different Hanna-Barbera. And let's look for a obscure one. Or we can just get a bunch of them here. So I'm going to put that URL in. And it looks a little funny, but hopefully it'll pull up the image. There it is. Okay. Nice looking bunch right there. And then we have our aside. So one of the things that is now supported in Typst is we should have information that can be placed in the margins as well. Now, you can do this with asides. You can do this with references. You can do this with figures. Oh, it didn't like something. Okay, this is funny. So it gave us this kind of similar type of error. It gave us this similar type of error when we were in the project directory. Oh, it's because Kulas. It's because Kulas copied too much from the previous slide. So typically, if you have a reference that is not accessible to Quarto, it won't terminate the entire document. It'll just give you an error and saying, hey, there's kind of this random, what you think is a citation, but I don't see any reference to it. And it was just aborting off of that, which is kind of, that was unexpected. But here you see content in the margins. Let's go ahead and put the format back because we like that fancy format so much. as long as we have theorems, we should do theorems in the, now I forget, theorem appearance, fancy. We like fancy. When I say we, I'm imposing my will on all of you. I'm just assuming that you like the same stuff I do because otherwise, why would you be here? Hey, what'd you do to my theorems? What's going on here? What did we do? I'm not getting my theorem appearance. What doesn't it like? It's a little unexpected. Did I specify that at the wrong level? Let's go back. Let's check that out real quick. I don't want to hang up on this because this isn't really what we intended to do here. But I'm not sure what I did that was different here. I mean, it could just be a spacing issue. It could be, I don't think it's, something's interfering with that. Okay. Well, that was unexpected. We'd have to come back and play with that. The only real thing I see here is the aside that we have. I don't know if the aside is interfering with that. No, doesn't look like it. What else? There's an image. I mean, I'm gonna. Oh, why do I have this here? Man, I copied way too much out of that last file, just kind of sloppily, just kind of quickly. It's being silly. So there was a second YAML specification, which that shouldn't matter. It should just render as normal text. Weird. Okay, so apparently it didn't like that second YAML that I had in the document that I accidentally pasted in there. There's our fancy theorem formatting and our aside. Now let's see what else we can put in the margins of article layout with Typist document types, because I don't know, because that's one thing that we were intending to take a look at tonight. So article layout. You can span the entire document width. You can stay within kind of the printable margins, and again you can go into the margins. And to me that was really what they. Why is this one? This is interesting. The formatting, I'm not sure how they get in that background. Oh, because it's an image. Okay. So the image itself has to just be that gray. There's our formulas. So, and this is a fenced specification instead of the bracketed span. So we could take this information here and repeat it, and it should be rendered the same if we just do, instead of square bracket with a curly bracket aside, if we just did aside after 3 colons, which indicate an opening fence and a closing fence. That should be the same, should end up with the same kind of effect. And there you see it. Now one of the things about the column location is you got to kind of play a little bit with where you want it vertically, up and down. You just aren't going to have great control over that. Figures, this is something that you might be interested in, I suppose, tables and figures. So let's go ahead and a little further down here. Well, and then we'll see if we can put a theorem in the margin, and then that'll be it. So this specification, it's giving a label. So if we later want to cross-reference that, so we could say up here where we have our theorems, we could say, see also the pretty picture at, whoa, I shouldn't have done that. Our Kulis is getting ridiculous with his copying and pasting again. Tonight, that's tonight's lesson, is too much sloppy copying and pasting. And here's the specification that just says go ahead and put it in the margin, that rendered image. I'm going to also turn off echo on this because we don't need to see the script. We can see it in the QMD. We don't need to see it in the rendered file. And now we see our cross-reference here. Now, if this were an HTML file, I would get a preview of that upon hover, but in Typist and PDF document types, what this will do is it will just take me to it. And there it is. That does look pretty neat. I kind of do like that capability of putting stuff in the margins. And again, that's one of the new capabilities here in Quarto that's supported for Typist document types. We could change this to an HTML file type, and everything should be okay except again for that theorem appearance, which appears to be specific to Typist document types. So it's not gonna interfere with our ability to get something. It'll just be inert, or it's just not gonna do anything. There's our asides, there's our margin, and now we have this preview upon hover, which is a super cool feature of HTML products rendered within Quarto. I love that, love that, love that. Okay, cool. Anything, let me see if there's anything else we want to take a look at tonight. We can do tables, we can do multiple outputs. References, I guess we could try that. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. I don't know why you would want to do this. I guess if you're doing a book, I guess, you know, maybe you'd want to do that. It looks to me like this is probably a first level specification that's going to be supported by Typist. Now I need to give it a bibliography first, so we'll call it, oh geez, no, I need to be in a project directory. So we'll see if I can give it a location. This is going to be a mess because I don't really do this much anymore. But we'll see if we can. We'll see if we can just tell it that within my culas directory that there is a file called temp.bib, and we'll give that a reference here. We'll go to Google Scholar and we'll look for Einstein or Einstein, and we'll take here we go. This looks like Albert Einstein quotes. That looks like a not interesting one. This looks more interesting. We'll take the BibTeX version of that and we'll paste that in here. We'll call this temp.bib, and I'm going to save that within my culas directory and see if we can find it. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking we probably won't be able to find that. We'll give this a reference here. We'll say Einstein. Einstein says you should do that. And who doesn't listen to Einstein? You should always listen to Einstein. It did pull it up. Okay. So there's the reference. Now, okay, that is kind of cool. It did just put it right in the margin there. Now, if we were to delete that, it should give us, at the end of the document, it should just give us a normal reference section. So I still get the same reference, but now at the very end I do get a reference section, and I don't have table of contents identified, so it's not showing up in the table of contents, but it's certainly there at the end of the document, and also there upon hover. So let's change this to Typist again and see how that reference comes up with the Typist document type. Boy, I'm doing bad on this 20 minutes over almost every time. It doesn't like looking where I told it to look now. So it did it before. It's not liking it now. So we might have to do this within a project directory. Yeah. We're going to have to do it within a project directory. Let's do that really quickly. Just because we've come so far, we might as well. So we already have our great American novel. we'll create a new chapter. We'll just put that, I copied it, so we'll just paste that chapter into a new Quarto document. And this stuff is now going to go into my overall YAML. So I'm going to want to save this as, we'll call it Bubcus, because it is. And now we can have a new chapter called Bubcus. Put it before our references. It's probably a good idea. And you know, we could just append this to our, our current references .bib, but I think let's see if we can have two bibs and see if it calls those out. So here's my temp.bib. I'm going to copy that and we're going to save it in our Great American Novel folder. So now if I refresh this file space here, I should see the temp.bib. There it is. My Quarto is now calling out Bubcus. So let's see what happens. And then we're going to see if we can play with margins a little bit in terms of, we'll see if that works with the book. Now I did see in some of the help documentation files that that some of the capabilities that we're testing out here may not completely transfer over, so they may not work in all different formats. I have no idea why it just did that in my build tab. That's different. That's something I haven't seen before. It usually does that in the background jobs tab. So that's really what is going on. That's really interesting. So let me let me undo some of the stuff we just did here and see if we can see what the heck happened. What the heck is going on? Huh. So I seem to have entered a portal into a different dimension here. I'm not exactly sure what I did, but what we're seeing here in the build tab is not, again, not something that I'm used to seeing. And I'm not sure what's happening with the book itself in terms of we're not getting a preview of it. And we're also not getting any sort of feedback that says something is wrong. So that's very interesting. So I'm gonna have to play with that. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Okay, so so new Typist capabilities. It looks like they are working great. The margin location for information looks pretty cool. The neatest thing to me is the theorems, I think, as well as the books. I could see myself playing with those books just because I really like the format of that, how those look when they're actually rendered. Okay, so I'm gonna, in the next week, I'm gonna take a look and try to figure out why I was getting the build appear in my build tab in RStudio, because to me that's something that, again, I don't think I've seen that before. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I might just need to restart RStudio. But neat. Okay, thanks everybody. If there's something that you would like to see next week, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just choose a topic that I stumble across or am working on this coming week, and then we'll choose to cover that. Okay, thanks everybody. Good night.